Hello, I'm Dan Fitzpatrick, author of the best-selling The AI Classroom and a Forbes writer focused on how artificial intelligence is transforming education. Over the past few years, I've had the privilege of traveling the world, working with leading schools and districts, helping them to develop strategic approaches to AI integration that makes a real difference. I've developed strategies that work and learned from what doesn't, and witnessed where true transformation is possible. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to my latest book, Infinite Education, the four-step strategy for change in an age of artificial intelligence. Releasing on January the 6th, 2025, this book isn't just a guide, it's an inside look at the strategies driving successful change in schools worldwide, making it a must-read for any educational leader or educator looking to secure their leadership in the future. In Infinite Education, I lay out a four-step framework to help educational leaders build a future-ready vision for education in an age of AI. The first part of the book delves into the why we must evolve beyond our industrial age educational models to meet the demands of today's students and tomorrow's workforce. The second part reveals the how, providing practical steps to create a cohesive strategy that aligns your team, anticipates disruption, and drives lasting impact. What sets this book apart is that every strategy is grounded in real-world applications. This framework has already empowered schools and organizations to make meaningful, sustainable change in their approach to AI in education and their outlook on preparing students for the world. If you're an educator, administrator, or innovator, Infinite Education offers concrete steps to begin your journey in rethinking your practices and crafting a dynamic environment where both teachers and students can thrive. If you'd like to learn more or explore how these strategies could benefit your school or organisation, please get in touch. And if you're interested in joining the waitlist for the book, head over to infiniteeducation.ai to secure your spot. Once again, Infinite Education, the four-step strategy for change in an age of artificial intelligence, will be available on January 6th, 2025. Let's take this journey together and shape the future of education. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our AI Educator webinar. Wherever you are in the world, I've just been looking through the comments. It's great to see people. We've got Chris in Mexico. We've got Gerald, North Dakota. We've got Aileen in Scotland, Darren in Scotland, Kevin in Arkansas. I think I said that right. I'm from England. It's got an S at the end, doesn't it? But it's not. You don't pronounce that S. Right. We got Baker in Texas, Marwa in Lebanon, and Ireland, Winnipeg. Yeah, all of the world, America, England, and Europe. It's great. I guess the other side of the world's sleeping at the minute, but they will catch up with the recording. So if you are watching this on YouTube, the link that you were watching this on, it will turn into a replayable webinar as soon as we end, and I'll email that over to you at the end of this, so you get that and you can rewatch it or you can share it with your colleagues. I'm also aware that some of you are watching in stream parties, so if you are watching it as a stream party, welcome to all of you. I know a lot of you got in contact with me and said you'll be watching this as a group after school in your classrooms and putting it on the screen. So if you're doing that, it's amazing that you can join us. Thank you. Let me tell you a bit about who I am. If you don't know who I am, my name is Dan Fitzpatrick. I am known as the AI Educator. I was a teacher and educational leader. And I explore everything in AI, and I work with schools, colleges, businesses, universities around the world, helping them to integrate artificial intelligence. And that's where I'm joining you from right now. I'm in a hotel room in Brighton, which is on the south coast of England. It's 8:30 in the evening here. That's why it looks a bit dark, but amazing to be able to join you. Like I said in the promo just before we went properly live, the book Infinite Education does come out very soon in January. In fact, just been doing the last edits to the last chapter today. So if you want to join the waitlist for that, it's infiniteeducation.ai, the four-step strategy for leading change in the age of artificial intelligence. Right, let's get down to the business end, because we're here for a reason. And that reason, as you can see in the top right-hand corner there, is to explore Brisk teaching. Now, Brisk teaching, let me tell you a bit about my journey with Brisk teaching. I sometimes get asked to showcase certain tools in when I go into schools and I work and do workshops with teachers. And obviously some companies reach out and say, could you feature our tool? And I'm really adamant that I only want to feature tools that I love and I think that are having a massive impact. And again, when I'm doing a webinar like this, I only really want to work with people who I know their tools are having a huge impact out there and that teachers are telling me that it's having a huge impact. So Brisk teaching is one of those tools that I love showing, and I get to see the reaction on people's faces, on teachers' faces, when they can see what they can do. And I was just speaking to our guest who will join us in just a few seconds, just before we went live, and I was telling them about, I was working with the Premier League yesterday. I was at Manchester City's ground working with the heads of academies there, and was showing them how to use Brisk. And again, the reaction was just amazing. So I'm really excited tonight to get to speak to the founder, Arman, explore a bit about where the tool came from, what's the purpose of the tool, get to know Arman a bit more, and then we're going to jump into looking at the features of this tool. Before we go any further, let me tell you that Brisk Teaching is a Chrome extension. So if you want to play along with us as we go, and you haven't got Brisk already, if you go to the Brisk website, which is briskteaching.com, you will be able to get a link through, download the Chrome extension, and start using it straight away. So you can play along with us as we go. And what we're going to look at specifically once we get to the demo is 5 different areas. So we're going to look at how do you create content with this, content for your lessons, for your courses, how to give feedback with this tool, which is one of those features that still gets a huge reaction when I show this, and how to inspect writing, big one for teachers who suspect that their students might be using AI and how it was created. And we'll come back to that soon. Change levels and of the writing, the reading levels of the activities, and boost activities, which we'll get into, where you can do some really cool things with students. Okay, before I didn't mention this bit as well. There's lots of professional development resources on the website as well. So if you are looking for something beyond what we're doing in this webinar, you can go and do some training. There's a slide deck you can share with your colleagues and share the news about this tool with them too. Right, let me introduce Arman. So Arman is going to be joining us in just a second. If you've got any questions for Arman as we're having this conversation, please do get them in the chat, and I'll put some questions to him as we go through, or at the end, just wherever feels natural in the conversation. And if you've got some technical questions, or I suppose questions that are specifically about the tool, get them in as well. But we'll probably look at them at the end of like the demo session, if that makes sense, because it kind of fits in there. So Arman is the founder of Brisk Teaching. He previously worked at the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative and in the White House office of the Chief Technology Officer, and also on the mobile search team at Google. So quite an illustrious work history there, working with some amazing organizations and government organizations. So let's bring Arman in. There we go. Arman, great to see you.
Good to see you, Dan. I'm so excited. I was just reflecting on how Dan's face popped up early when all these AI tools were in their infancy, and he's been such a big proponent, not just of Brisk, but I think of the space, which I think the entire community is incredibly grateful for. And I'm so excited.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. And I suppose, yeah, those of us who've been in this a few years now and kind of started off as a small community, learning of each other through social media and working together. So, and I know we've communicated loads, but this is actually the first time we've ever been in a face-to-face environment, being able to chat. So it's a real privilege to be able to do that. Yeah. So where are you joining us from today?
I'm joining from San Francisco, California. So it's actually it just turned afternoon right now. Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Great. Well, it's great to be able to chat with you. And I suppose just going through some of your previous work there, it sounds really impressive. So how did you get into working with some of these huge organizations, and what was, I suppose, what did you do there?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into education, and I'm so glad I did. I, spent some time. I studied computer science in college. I then went to go work in the White House because I really loved the TV show that was situated in the White House in the U.S. here. It was called The West Wing, and I just really
Oh man, yeah, I'm the biggest West Wing fan. Absolutely,
Oh,
I must have
really?
watched that series. Yeah, I think I've got through like it from start to finish about 4 or 5 times. Like,
I'm the same way.
best show
Yeah.
ever.
It doesn't age as well now, but I think if it got you at the right time, it still feels like home now. Especially given all the political developments and changes in the world. So regardless, if you're one of those characters, you can potentially guess which one that might be. Spent some time at the White House, and then in 2017 joined the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative and had the chance to kind of go really deep in education. And so had this chance, we were supporting this project-based learning approach in schools and districts, and we built a learning platform on top to basically support educators trying to implement this project-based learning approach. And my job was basically to actually build the Google Docs and Microsoft Docs integration with this learning platform. And I think the biggest insights I found after working for 5 years on this project was one, which was that teachers actually didn't have capacity to implement these pedagogies with fidelity, right? Like, we asked teachers to do so many things, especially post-pandemic and during the pandemic, to be social workers, educators, mentors, coaches, the list goes on. And often good instruction is enabled by capacity in the first place. And so felt like while we were really focused on the pedagogical piece, there was an underlying necessary condition that we really weren't focused on. And then the second thing was just like seeing the number of tools that teachers were using and feeling this lack of coherence in the instructional workflow of teachers, that they, right now, the average teacher has 10 to 20 tabs open right now, just bouncing between all of these different tools as almost like an operator rather than as someone who feels in charge, but more as just managing the instructional relationships between a student information system, a learning management system, Google Docs, the curriculum, and just feeling like if we designed the ed tech system today from scratch, things would look totally different. But felt like a little bit of learned helplessness, that there was so much existing software that was necessary for a teacher to teach. And so those were just two beliefs that I had. Ended up building this product called Notebooks, which was a document editor similar to Google Docs, because we felt like Google Docs wasn't doing a great job for early learners. But ended up finding that we were adding to that same type of fragmentation of this ecosystem. There's just another tool for teachers to copy and paste between Google Docs. So when AI came around, I got really excited. Obviously, anyone who has spent any time in the classroom, the applications are obvious, the ability to create lesson plans and those types of things. But at least our thesis with Brisk and the founding team really believes is that the affordance or the way in which we interact with AI will look different than previous generations of technology, where you build a platform, you set up the rostering system, and you go. And really thinking more about how is AI unique and how can we bring the value of AI to teachers where they're already working, because all of that work is already happening in those platforms. You're already using your existing curriculum. You don't want to create a lesson plan out of nowhere. You actually want to create a lesson plan using the existing content you have, but thinking about it in a way where it can be standards aligned and rigorous. And so for those reasons, we decided to actually start with the Chrome extension so we can meet teachers where they are and automate the things that they're doing already rather than adding more work for them to do.
Yeah, I like that. And I think that's what stands out, makes Brisk stand out in kind of this market of lots of different AI tools at the minute. The fact it's not just another tab, it's like floating in there wherever you are. And I suppose it's what gives us its magic in terms of that. Then no matter what tab you're on, whatever content you're on, Brisk can work with that, and I think it makes it stand out. I think, and brings those additional functionalities that we'll get into soon. I suppose, what did you, when you first had that idea for Brisk, what was kind of the I suppose the first tool within it that the idea you had, and did you think it would go on to be lots of different tools, or were you just kind of focused on doing one main thing at the start?
Yeah, so I'm a little bit embarrassed to say this because I think we've learned a lot since the last 2 years since we launched Brisk. But when we were talking,
I know what you're going to say. I think I know what you're going to say, because
yeah.
I said, yeah, I'll let you say it, but I won't guess.
So rewinding to January 2023, right? You talk to any teacher about AI, and the only thing that you would hear about was students are using this to cheat. And I think we made this naive assumption that, like, okay, we have these plagiarism checkers. Why don't we build an AI checker that would basically support? Because look, if teachers are spending all their time thinking about whether a student is plagiarizing using AI, they're not able to actually focus on those core instructional tasks that we think are so important. So through that thesis around teacher capacity, we really focused on academic integrity. Over the course of the last 2 years, I think as these models have gotten stronger, I think the belief among many people, including the folks at Brisk, is that AI detectors by themselves are not robust indicators of whether a student has plagiarized from AI. And so we've shifted our strategy to a tool called Inspect Writing, which actually replays the version history of an assignment. And maybe, Dan, you're going to share this in a little bit, because we think that need is still there. I don't think it's gone away just because AI detectors tend to fail, but that we need to have at least some amount of transparency, because writing is still important. I don't think that it's going anywhere. And so how do we ensure and hold students accountable to their developing their own inner writing voice? And so we've seen Inspect Writing as a great way to kind of promote that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I remember when I first used Brisk, it had the AI detector in there, and I remember when I first saw it, I thought, we'd like talking about it, and it's not reliable. But I think it's amazing. I think what you just shared something which is which I suppose is from a place of vulnerability, I guess, which not many founders would do that easily and go, right, actually we took it out because we didn't want to have it in the product anymore. And as big respect for that you pivoted with that. And I think, and I like the Inspect. Everyone I talk to loves that Inspect Writing feature, because I think most teachers who know a lot about AI know that the AI detectors can take you down a rabbit hole of false positives, false negatives, and so on, and false accusations. But that Inspect Writing is literally, you're seeing that timeline of how the student has completed that work, and you're getting to see how long it took them to write it, how many pastes have been done in that document. And I just think it's a more wholesome, more healthy way to just see how has the student written this. And I suppose that's not just for, let's see if AI did it for them. It's actually, from a teacher point of view, you get to see organically how they have written that, and get to learn more about how they're writing, how they're coming up with the goods, really. So yeah, it's I love that. And we just had a few comments in, people saying how much they love that feature as well. I suppose, I suppose 2 years later, is this what you expected from it 2 years ago? I suppose, give us some insight into that.
I think I'm an impatient person, and so I wish the entire space would have developed more. I think one of the things that I think there's so many opportunities, there's so many rich things. I think some people ask, like, oh, are you worried about what to do next? And I'm like, I'm worried we just don't have enough time. Like, there's so many rich things that we want to do. And I guess 2 years, I wish everyone, including Brisk, we would have developed more things. And so I'm just really optimistic about the future and wish we had done more things in the last 2 years, but we've got a lot of time to keep going.
Yeah, I think when you look at the list of tools in there and the functionality, I think you've done so much. And I often say to teachers when I'm talking to them that actually the one thing that slows the progress of AI down is the human side of it. It's the fact that a team has to then take it and produce a usable product, a user-friendly product, a product that's going to actually be useful, and has to test that out and so on. So I think you guys have done amazingly in just that short time. And then also the other side of the product, which has emerged over the last month or so, which is the student side of it as well. I think a lot of people were happy when they saw those features start to become available. Was that always something you wanted to do from the start? Have a student side of this, or was that an idea that came later?
I think it definitely was something that our North Star is to reimagine the suite of tools that teachers use in what we call an AI native way, which is like because our thesis is that like entire structure of EdTech is antiquated. Our actual long-term vision is to reimagine all of it. And that might sound like an ambitious vision. So student facing was always going to be part of it. And if you think about teacher workflows, you can start on the teacher side, but so much of the time savings is really about that relationship with that student and being able to provide direct support to a student. So the student, for example, in the case of feedback, isn't waiting the week and a half it normally takes for a student to get writing feedback, and they can get that feedback directly, so that they can continue to be in productive struggle and improve their writing. And so I think as part of our thesis around time saving, it always made sense for us to do a student facing tool. And so that was something that we knew we were going to do over the summer of this year. We did a couple of iterations on it. It's changed a little bit even in the last week, and we're really excited about where it's going. I'll just shout out one engineer who's working on this right now that I'm so thrilled to do in the future, which is with Boost, and you'll show this, you can take a Google Doc or Google slide presentation and add a Boost activity and share it. But the new thing we're going to be launching, well, maybe I shouldn't say it. Maybe our marketing team isn't going to be happy, but is to actually share a copy of that Google Doc. So as a student can like write their own version in a Google Doc and then start getting AI-based feedback in the context of a Boost activity. So it's not just a chat bot, but it's like a writing assignment that then has the Boost component that's attached to it. So we're excited to launch that soon. But yeah, to your question, it was always a part of the strategy, and we're excited about what we've seen. It's honestly been, the teachers who use it like once or twice a week, which if you think about like the amount of usage that is, it's been phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we dive into it, let's take a few questions that have come up so far. So, as you can imagine, and I'm sure you get this quite a bit, it's one of the number one concerns for teachers is kind of the data privacy side of things when it comes to AI tools. We've got a few questions about that. So, the first one is Michael Whitford says, "How do you handle student data and privacy?" And let me tag another one onto that because it's kind of in the same line, which is from Elizabeth, who says, "Is it for the European audience on this call? Is it GDPR compliant?" Great.
So I'll start with GDPR. So as of August, we are GDPR compliant. It took the team some time to get there, but we're really excited. And then broadly, security and privacy. I think this is such an important topic, and I actually spent some time at the White House watching all of this explosion in EdTech and actually being very concerned about how quickly how easy it is for a teacher to adopt a tool potentially that's misaligned with the district or the state or the country's privacy laws. And so from day one at Brisk, we were laser focused on data privacy. So we're signatories to the Student Privacy Pledge. We've gone above and beyond when it comes to the EU, and we've signed a bunch of different privacy agreements as well. And Common Sense has also rated us really highly from a data privacy perspective. What I'll say is unique to Brisk is we are not sending your data to OpenAI or to Anthropic or any other large language model provider. We have our own large language model that we've hosted and licensed on our cloud service providers' services. So that means that data that you're sharing with us will never go back to OpenAI or Anthropic. And that means it's like in some ways a firewalled container, and they can't use that student data to create a new version of a large language model, which is, you know, something that is possible to do. Like if you send that data to OpenAI, it's possible that GPT-5 might include your students' data, which is such a big concern for me personally. And it's something, the reason why we invested so much time in kind of shifting off of OpenAI and Anthropic for that reason.
Amazing, and I'm sure that will reassure a lot of people who are with us right now. So thanks for sharing that, and great news about GDPR as well for those of us over here in this part of the world. Let's go one of the main question. I think I did get a question from Joe Dale as well. Joe, I think we'll cover that in the demo because it can do that. So let's have a look. Brittany's asked a question. How many teachers are involved in Brisk's production and planning process?
Well, yeah, it's honestly growing by the day. We are at 22 people. This time last year, it was 4. So the team has grown quite a lot in the last year, and we're hiring across the board. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to me after, and we'd be happy to see if there's a role for you.
Cool. I suppose just digging into that message as well, I guess, do you have teachers on there? Are teachers advising continually? Are these, I suppose some teachers get worried that an ed tech company brings out a tool and there's no actual teacher input, so there's no understanding of how teachers work. Do you have teachers integral in that process?
Absolutely. And so the majority of Brisk is former teachers. I almost feel like the one non-teacher on the team in the CEO, but from our head of and it's not just in like customer facing roles. It's like our head of operations, our sales folks, our marketing folks all have teaching backgrounds. And I think, because personally, my belief is that teachers are the best people to hire because they work the hardest. They have so much empathy. They're collaborative, and honestly, so responsive to changing demands and stretched resources. And you all are so used to managing with what you have, and given how a startup environment is so dynamic, we found that teachers are actually the best people to hire in any role.
Amazing, fantastic. Right, let's jump into it. So I'm just going to change the screen. I'm doing the production of this. I'm doing the reading of the comments. I'm talking to Arman. So give me just a second, and I think we're going to go over to this layout here. Right, and we'll bring the screen back in. Okay, right. Let's jump over now I just picked out this afternoon when I was preparing for this. I picked out just a random article, actually from the US government on the science of earthquakes. So if you've got the Chrome extension installed, you will see at the top of my Chrome browser here, you will see I've got the Brisk extension just sitting there, and I've pinned that onto the top of my Chrome browser. And what that means is when the Brisk extension can be used, it will appear as like a little floating icon within your browser. So you can see it here. I'm dragging it around a little bit. I'll click on it, move it around. So if it gets in the way of something, you can easily just move it around. And there's a little green halo around it, which means that it can be used on this website. So we're going to look at kind of this from 2 different angles. We're going to look at what you can do in terms of creating content with this, and then we'll flip to the side where you can give feedback and you can use it with student work. And Arman's gonna stick with me for this bit. So Arman, please do feel free to just jump in, and we'll have a chat through this. But I thought the first thing we could do is just click it. So I think if I'm a teacher, I picked this because I at one point I had to teach geography and earthquakes when I was a secondary school teacher, and I'm still trying to get over it. So this helps with the therapy as go back to earthquakes. But here we go. We've got the science of earthquakes, and if I click the Brisk icon, you can see there's a few various options here. So we've got the create option, we've got change level, boost student activity, which we'll come back to, and you got some popular tools at the bottom there. If I click create, It's going to give me a whole bunch of tools that I can use that will take that content and turn it into something else. Okay, so you can see there we've got a quiz, we've got a rubric, a syllabus, progress report, resource. There is so much there, even a presentation. Let's just jump into a few of these and see what Brisk can do. So let's start in the top left-hand corner. So if I click quiz, I now get some options. So I can change the language if I want. So there was a question by Joe in the chat earlier about being able to change languages when giving feedback, and also you can do that when creating resources as well really easily. So a lot of languages in there. I'm going to keep it on English because if I don't, then I won't understand it, and then we're going to get into trouble because I won't know what we're doing. So I'm going to keep it there. I can also add some standards there as well. I changed the grade. Now, for our non-US audience, these are American grades, so you'll just have to convert that in your head, but we'll go with 9th grade. You can choose the question types: short response, long response, multiple choice, and how many questions. And the personalized, oh man, a great time to bring you in here because I've never used the personalized to my learners tick box. Can you give us a bit of insight into what that would do?
Yeah, we need to do a better job of explaining what personalized to my learners does. That's frankly CEO honesty. But what we've found is that often educators, the context that they have about their students is unique. And so often we find that ChatGPT will output content that is the average content rather than the content that your students might need. And so what we take is, when you're providing feedback across pieces of student work, we generate insights off of those students and then inject that context into the quiz that you create about this web page. So if you have given feedback on students' comprehension of earthquakes, you have that context now that is being used in the creation of the quiz, so it's leveled appropriately for your students.
Amazing. Yeah, just when I'm demonstrating this, I never have time to go into sometimes some of the smaller features there, just because there's so much in this. I think I could probably do workshops for hours on it. So if you can see here, there's like a little prompt which is pre-filled. Create a quiz about this web page, which I can add to or change. If I click next, I get a choice between a Google Doc and Google Forms. Let's check the Google Forms. I think that's probably a little bit more impressive to see a Google form to be created from that. And then I'm going to click Brisket, and we will see what happens. So you can see there. Now my hands are here. I'm doing nothing here. I'm just watching the screen like you are. I always feel like a magician at this point. And then you can see it opened a new tab. It's opened up a Google form, and it has used the content from that article about earthquakes to create a 10-question quiz for my students. And you will see as well, if I click on it, it has pre-filled the answer key, which makes it into a self-marking quiz without you having to do anything, which is absolutely phenomenal. The amount of I've always been a Google user when I've worked in schools, and the amount of times I would have to spend creating Google forms, going in, filling out the answer key for each one, and so on. But there we go. I mean, we talk about AI saving time. That was a few seconds. And I love then that Brisk opens back up and offers further suggestions based on whatever you've made. So you can see here, we can use that to go and create a student activity. Like a further one using the boosted options, which we'll get into soon. Or I can change them into shorter response, longer response, or multiple choice. They're obviously already multiple choice. So that's how you create a quiz. I guess at this point, Norman, a lot of people who are watching this will notice we're using a lot of Google tools here. And I know you guys have made this primarily for kind of the Google Workspace tools. And that's not to say that teachers who use other ecosystems like Microsoft's can't use this and can't take advantage of it. Do you have plans for the Microsoft side of it? I might be putting you on the spot here, but
it's such a great question. We are actively working on it right now. It's something that we feel really strongly, especially for international users who often are Microsoft users. It's important for us to be able to support them. And so you can expect news very soon. Soon, not
Amazing.
very soon, soon.
Amazing.
So too much to give them too much pressure.
Are you about to get in trouble with your PR team again?
Okay, yeah.
Right, let's go back, because let's have a look at some of the other things we can do with this. So we've come back to the earthquake. Now, this is just an article I found. I love this because you could, when I was teaching a lot, I used to teach philosophy. I taught like everything in secondary school. I used to teach one of my main subjects was philosophy, and I used to find articles online. I used to find news stories like related to ethical issues that we were studying a lot. And I used to, you'll hear me say this a lot in this webinar, but I just think, oh, imagine if I'd had this tool back when I was doing that, and what I could have done with those. And I'd normally, just because of time, would print it off and give them a copy, and we'd read it out, and we'd talk about it, which I suppose there's nothing wrong with it. But the way you can make dynamic content and dynamic resources really easy with this in just a few seconds. So let's go back to that. Let's have a look at the change level one, because I think a lot of teachers like this in my experience, which is, let's say you found that article, you think this is going to be good for my students to know, or a resource that you want to use with your students. But we're looking online, we're looking at pre-existing content here, and therefore might not be entirely suitable. And one of those ways is the reading level. Some of the content in there, some of the writing might just be a bit too above where our students are at, or below where our students are at. So we're going to click change level, and you will see here again I can change the language. I'm going to keep it on English for a second. We will do another language example very soon. I'll change the grade level. So let's bring it down. Let's say you're in elementary or primary school. Let's bring it down to, let's say, 4th grade. And I'm going to click change reading level. And again, my hands are up here. I'm not doing anything. It's open to Google Doc, and it is rewriting that article for us in the Google Doc at that reading level. There we go. And then again, I get Brisk jump back up and offer some more suggestions. And I've accidentally clicked off it and tried to click back on it.
Maybe we'll need to refresh the page for some reason. Sometimes maybe it's the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. I am in a hotel room Wi-Fi. Okay, I tell you what, let's go back to this. Let's do it again. I think it was my fault because I clicked off it. Let's change that level. We'll let it do its thing again. So you can see, I really like how it jumps back up. And one of the options there that I was going to jump into, and I will do in a sec once it's done this, is that option to be able to then shorten it or make it longer. So again, if I'm creating this for a 4th grade class, for example, it's probably going to be too long, because it's rewriting the whole article and kind of copying the length of that article. So there you go. You can see it open back up. So if I click make shorter, then there we go. It's going to jump.
I think you might have selected the quiz when you were showing the quiz. So
did I?
Anyhow,
let me. Okay, this is going well, isn't it?
I was going to say you're so great. It's live demos. I hardly ever do them anymore because I'm like,
yeah, I'm clicking. I don't know if I'm getting a lag on my screen. Yeah, but you click. I didn't click create. I clicked the quiz option, but you can see it created a quiz in the doc from that. If I click shorter, it would have made it shorter. Let's translate this. So let's click Spanish, and let's see what it does here. So you can see it is translating that quiz that I accidentally created into Spanish for us. And I love this. I'm really fortunate. I get to work in lots of different countries, and I spend a lot of time over in the UAE. And the question I always get is, can these tools translate to Arabic? And when I do something like this, and I click translate, and I go down to Arabic, and let it do its thing, I get jaws on the floor, because in schools in the UAE, it's a requirement, they have to teach Arabic, and so therefore seeing them be able to get resources like this, it's such ease, is amazing to see. And yeah, so I love that part of it. So one more thing I want to show on this, before we move over to the feedback side, is the presentation side. I feel like this is like it's almost like a feature that's not emphasized within Brisk. But again, when I show it, teachers really, really like it. So if I go down and click, it's in the popular tools option, but you'll see here it's in the create part as well. If I click presentation, I'm going to flick it back to English. I get to choose the grade again. Let's boost it right up. Choose the slides, and I get to decide whether I want it with images or not. And I can also put standards in there, and it's pre-filled a prompt, but I can edit that prompt and give it some more specific instructions if I need to. And we've got the personalized to learners bit there as well, if we're creating different ones for different learners. I'm going to click next. I get some options here for how I want it to look. So let me pick that world one, probably might fit more appropriately considering it's earthquakes. So let's click that. We're going to click brisket. And again, hands are in the air. I'm not doing anything here. It has opened a new tab, and that tab has opened some Google Slides. And you can see now it's taken that article and creating a full slide deck for us right before our eyes. And what I really like about it is it goes and finds images as well, and pulls those images in. Now, when I introduce AI tools to teachers, I kind of have this thing where I say, now some of these tools will be able to do like 95% of a job for you, like something that's really admin heavy, or like a risk assessment or something like that. It can do a large part of a job, like some of these AI tools. Some tools will do 10% of a job, just because it needs more of an authentic human input. Some will do 50, 40%, but it's the accumulation of those percentages where we start to see big rewards for teachers in terms of that time saving and efficiency. Now, for me, I think this tool gets you probably about halfway there. I don't know how you feel about this, Arman, but I feel like you're going to want to, as a teacher, you're going to want to then jump in there, do a bit of editing. And I think it's important, isn't it, to say that these tools they're not designed to do 100% of the job for you and replace the tasks that we do every day, but just to give us that boost. And I think this nicely gives us that boost, where it takes the content, puts it on the slides. But as a teacher, you're still going to want to jump in there and edit it and make it your own.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think almost, I wonder what you think, Dan, here, but almost this conversation about saving time feels in some ways limiting, because it's like, okay, you have 40 hours in a given week that you're working, and AI can save you 10 hours or 5 hours. But really what I see this opportunity is less about necessarily replacing the teacher, but more supercharging. And what are the hours of instruction that a student would not receive, the number of opportunities for feedback that they would never have gotten, that aren't really tracked in that, like, how much time did you save out of the 40 hours of your week. So I think at Brisk, at least, we're starting to think about, like, rather than the 3 to 4 hours we're saving teachers a week, how do we actually open up the pie, or like increase the size or the amount of teaching that can happen in a classroom, which I think is also something that I'm struggling to verbalize, actually, but it's something I hope we can, as an education community, can start having that, like, inverse conversation, rather than just like teachers work 40 hours a week, Brisk is saving this like 3 to 5 hours, if that makes sense.
Yeah, as if, like, in those 3 to 4 hours they're sat on the beach with a pina colada. Like, that's not what teachers are doing. They're already, I mean, I wish, but they're already doing a lot within that time, and what that takes. I used to say to people when I was a teacher, I used to say, if you want to go far as a teacher, you're gonna have to learn how to cut some corners. And I didn't mean that in like do a shoddy job of something. I just meant you're gonna have to really learn how to prioritize some things, and maybe put less priority on some other things, because you just don't have enough hours in a day to do absolutely everything to a 100% standard. Now, what that means is, and the teachers on this call will know this all too well, is that some things do, like we go into a lesson to teach and we're on 70% energy because we've spent the 15 minutes beforehand finalizing a resource or dealing with something, an admin task that needs to be done. And if we can even just get that energy back, that time to have that 15-minute cup of coffee and regain our energy before a lesson, I think it's vital. So yeah, so it's not going to do it all for you, and I think we need to be thankful for that. It's not us. It doesn't have our professional abilities. It doesn't have your contextual knowledge. It doesn't know your students. It's there to assist. So yeah, I really like that, and even just the time it takes to I want to create a slide deck. First thing I've got to do is put all the content into the slides before I can begin editing. And this is going to just get you there faster, I think. Amazing. Yeah, I'm just thinking with the time, let's jump over to the student side of this in terms of the feedback. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull up here. So in fact, this is an example that I used yesterday. I mentioned I was working with the Premier League in Manchester yesterday, and one of the qualifications that they do is in sports performance. So this is unit 1 of their qualification. So all elite football / soccer players, for the Americans on the call, do when they're in the academy training, they do this qualification, and this is a mock bit of coursework based on unit 1 of that qualification, which is called Careers in the Sport and Active Industry. So I've shown this to the heads of the academies yesterday, and we're gonna imagine a student has handed this in, and as a teacher, I'm gonna go down to the Brisk icon just in the bottom right hand corner here, and we can see we've got the similar options that we did with the article earlier, but we've got the inspect writing has arrived there as well. So let's jump into that first, because I know we just discussed it, and I think this is my internet, so give us a sec. There we go. So what we're going to see, so again, I'm not touching anything here, we're going to see an animation of the version history of this document. So you can see it's going to take you through each stage of this being created. Now, as a teacher, I can pause that, I can go back, I can look deeper into it. But at the top, this is the key bit for me. So at the top here, there's been 7 bits of information pasted in. There's been 25 edits, and it's taken 24 minutes to write this document. Now, that gives us a bit of information and could give us some indicators of where a student might need some help. So if we do suspect, because I'm the biggest advocate for teaching students how to use AI and getting them to collaborate with AI, but in the systems that we work in, sometimes students have got to do some work from their own memory, and rightfully so. So we don't want to be, as teachers, we talk about saving time. We don't want to be marking work that ChatGPT has written, because it's kind of the opposite of using your time meaningfully. So we want to make sure this is written by students. And this just gives us that insight into, so if we see something's just been pasted in, doesn't mean that a student has used AI. It could mean they've written it on their cell phone on the bus on the way home and then copied it in on when they got home. But I think it's a basis for a conversation. It's a healthy basis for a conversation with a student, and that's why I really like that. There's no accusations, there's no difficult percentage like you sometimes get with AI detectors of going, well, 30% written by AI, does that mean it was, does that mean it wasn't? It's an actual history and insights into the writing of this. Now, of course, the student has to write the work within the Google Doc in order for that to happen. And I know as well, Armand, when I've demonstrated this in the past, teachers who teach, especially coursework like this, where students are going to do big projects, have moved from other tools and decided to go and use Google Docs or Google Slides instead, so that they can use Brisk and maximize the impact of Brisk there. So yeah, so that's the inspect writing bit. I'm going to go back, and let's say we want to do some feedback. So let's click give feedback. Now you can give feedback in a number of different ways. I'm going to have a look at the targeted one first because that's my favorite. If I click targeted feedback again, and I think this goes back to Joe's question earlier, you can change the language of the feedback that you want to give. I'll keep it in English. I can ask it to focus on a certain part or a certain skill or so on in the feedback by giving it a prompt. What I really like here is the standards and the rubric bit. This is where it's going to get really powerful. Now, the standards in here, correct me if I'm wrong, man, but it's the American state standards, isn't it?
We actually do have quite a few international standards at this point as well. So if you go
right, okay.
If you use that drop down, for example, IB standards, I don't think that
right,
other folks will be able to see it on your screen because of the way the share screen works.
Right, okay. I see now, yeah.
We have a series of different international standards that if you want to just pick English, the English standards, for example, we're working on this actively right now. So yeah, we're working on international. In addition to the English standards, we have other country standards like Wales. We have Welsh standards too. So happy to continue to add more and more. Australia and Canada are also areas where we already have standards, and we're actively adding more all the time.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad I asked you that question because I didn't realize that. And when I'm working with English audiences or audiences outside of America, I normally say, "Oh, those are the American standards, so we're going to need to upload our own rubric." So now I know that. That's amazing.
Yeah, we've done with our American centrism and are trying to, really comprehensively support all countries.
Amazing. So what I'm going to do with this actually is, because this is from an exam board which has its own assessment rubric, is I'm going to actually upload that rubric. So I'm going to click upload rubric. You can't see this, but it's open my files on my computer. And I'm going to just open that file, which is loading right now. And you can see there it says Unit 1 assessment criteria. So it has uploaded a document from the particular exam board, the awarding organization for this bit of coursework. So it's going to analyze that assessment criteria and use that as the basis for the feedback. I'm going to change the grade because this would be done with like around a 12th grade student. I'm going to click Brisket, and again, my hands are going to come back. They're not going to be doing anything here, and we're going to see it go to work. And so we will see, I'll zoom a bit out there, I'm a bit too far in. So there we go. So we can see Brisk analyzing the students' work and writing feedback in the comments on the right-hand side that are in line with that assessment criteria, as you can see. So if I scroll up, notice as well, it doesn't comment. It hasn't actually submitted this back to the student because, of course, as the teacher, you need to double check it. You need to agree with it. You need to jump into it and think, is that going to be suitable for that student at this moment in time? And I like to tell a story at this point where I was at a place called Fettes College in Edinburgh in Scotland, and I was demonstrating Brisk to a room full of teachers. And as I was facing them, there was a few teachers down my left-hand side who, when you can just tell somebody's angry with you, I could just feel like a bubbling away of anger from these two teachers. And I'm the type of person that when I'm presenting, I can't just let that go. I've got to address it. So I was like, what's wrong? Tell me what's wrong. And what they said, I completely agreed with. What they said was that this is the job of a teacher to give feedback. How can a teacher go on and design the next lesson? How can a teacher understand the journey of their students if they're not the one who's given feedback? And as a teacher, and as all the teachers on the call right now, of course, of course. And what I suggest you don't do is just get Brisk to do that for you and then click comment and then move on to the next student, because we're not going to understand. How can we do our jobs if we're not an integral process of that feedback loop? So how I like to think of this is, like, imagine your principal or whoever your boss is came in and said to you, we're going to hire someone, and that person is going to write a first draft of everything for you. No matter what you want, within a few minutes, tell them and they'll write a first draft. I think when I was a teacher, I would have cried. I would have been like, that's what I think AI and AI in general for teachers, well, what it can do for teachers. And I think in this specific circumstance, this is what Brisk is doing for the feedback. It's a first draft. It's took the assessment criteria. It's read through the students' work, and it's give some feedback based on the assessment criteria. But we know as teachers that an objective piece of feedback isn't always needed. For example, you might have a student who, this is the best bit of work they've ever done. Normally they struggle, and they struggle a lot. So you might not want to give them objective feedback right now. You might just want to heap lots of praise on them and just really focus in on the positive points to build up their confidence for the next bit of work. So you don't want to click that comment. You want to go in and you want to make it personal to that student, which I think is critical. And also, this it gives the technical side of feedback, and I suppose that's what it's designed to do, isn't it? But there's the side of feedback which can motivate, which is a personal message from the teacher, which is designed to build that confidence, to motivate, and can change lives. And the teacher still has to do that. The teacher still has to go in and be that motivator. But as a way to get a first draft on the technical, objective analysis, using the right criteria, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. And again, I said you'd hear me say this a lot. I wish I'd had this. I really do. I think a lot of my work in AI is me thinking, I wish I'd had this when I was in the classroom, and me trying to get those days back. So there we go. We've got the feedback side of things. There's like I said before, there's other types of feedback that can be given. I'll show you one more example of it. If I click give feedback, and then I can click the rubric criteria. I like this one because what it does, and I'll click Brisket and you'll see, is it takes every single criteria within that document and it writes bullet pointed feedback for the student, as you can see it doing right now. And you can copy each bit of that feedback out if you want. So if you need to take it somewhere else, you will see that it has the criteria from the document. So you can see there the DP10, review own strengths and areas for development. That's literally taken from that criteria that we uploaded into it. So it is basing it on that. And then when I'm finished, I can just click insert, and then it inserts that table into the document. And that's literally how I would give feedback on coursework when I was teaching. I said I used to teach everything. At one point I taught business studies, and it was very coursework heavy, and this is how I would give feedback. So it gives it in that nice format that a lot of people who do coursework are used to, but again, lots of other formats as well. Right, let's jump into the student side of things, some of the new tools, because this is where things get really, really interesting, especially when we're working directly with students using AI. So I'm going to go back over to this article, and I'm going to go down to the Brisk icon, but this time I think I'm going to have to refresh it. So let me refresh it. This time I'm going to go to the boost option. So you can see here it says boost student activity. So I'm going to click that, and then I get some options. So I get some engage options, some assess options, and I think these ones are coming soon, the write and reflect. Excited to see them. I'm going to use the engage one. You can see there's a number of different tasks. So essentially what it's going to do, it's going to take that article or whatever content you're on and transform it into a task that you can send directly to the students. And I really like the first one, the tutor one. So I'm going to click that, and you can see here, again, I can change the language. I'm going to select the grade. So we'll keep that at 9th grade. I can select the standards there. I'm going to click Brisket, and you will see this time it actually opens a tab. And we're going to give it, you can see here, it's going to create for us some objectives. So you saw that right in front of your eyes. It's come up with 5 objectives, and it's written a role for the AI. So essentially what we're doing here, or what Brisk is doing for us, is that it's creating a chatbot that our students can engage with about the content that was on that web page. It's created some learning objectives. Now, the great thing is you can edit those learning objectives. You can add more learning objectives. Chances are, as a teacher, you've probably got learning objectives, so you might want to put them in. And then it's written the role for the chatbot. And again, you can click on that and you can change it if you want. I'll just keep it on what it's on at the minute. Then I'm going to click preview. Now I'm going to see what it looks like. You can actually include the article in there, which I really like. So if you're wanting the students to actually access the article and then use the chatbot as like a little guide that goes with the article, you can do that. And you can turn that on and off. You can have the learning objectives in there, and you can link to the resource as well. I'm going to keep it like this, and I'm going to click. So what you would do then is click share with students, and then you get QR code, you get the code, you get the link to put in your Teams or Google Classroom. And I'm going to come off it. And what I'm going to do is I am going to try this out. So this is what it looks like to the students just below here. So I'm going to click Let's Go. And you will see that the tutor starts to talk to me. So hi there, it's great to meet you. I'm excited to explore earthquakes. So it's based on that bit of content, that article that we were on. To start off, could you tell me what you already know about the causes of earthquakes? Let's put something like tectonic plates rub against each other. And now Brisk is going to type back to me. That's a great start, you're right. And notice, now this is the key bit. So on the right-hand side here, you've got those objectives. And by giving that answer, I've gone somewhere in and addressing that first objective, of completing that first objective. And it gives me a progress bar at the top. So the more I talk to it, the more it's going to encourage me and ask me questions that are going to help me as a student demonstrate my knowledge and therefore get through those learning objectives, which I think is phenomenal. There's some other tools a bit like this out there, but I haven't seen one that does this yet, where it actually measures what the conversations, it analyzes the conversations that your students are having, and then tells them if they're meeting the learning objectives or not, and then also will tell the teacher as well. I absolutely love that. Oh man, I'm going to stop there because we're just over time, but is there anything you want to say before we do say goodbye to everyone?
No, Dan, you did such a good job demoing. I feel like we have extra spots at Brisk if you wanna hop on. You're doing it better than I do. So I appreciated you kind of walking through the things. As I shared, yeah, we're really excited about Boost, especially, you didn't get to show that, but like attaching the resource on the left-hand side can always be a fun thing too for the student to kind of get access to. But yeah, thank you so much for doing such a great job. And I think, as Gareth shared, the character chat is always fun to see. Talking to historic characters as well can be interesting for students to be able to engage as well. So there's many use cases. I would definitely try it out.
I know that's the thing with Brisk. Like we could have literally gone 3 hours and still not covered everything. There's so much in there. And it is like a real powerful toolkit for teachers. I just want to say before you go, what I'm going to do is we're going to have a look at some of the questions that have come in this evening, and Brisk and myself, we're going to put together a bit of a merchandise pack. So Brisk are going to put some merch in. I'm going to put a couple of my books in, and we're going to have 2 lucky winners for people who've submitted questions. And I will announce them on my social media channels over the next few hours. So that's my social media channel, so you can check to see if you're mentioned. Because we're going to be looking at your names in the chat. I might not have contact details for you, but I'll post the name that you're using in the chat on my social media channels. So if that's you, please do send me a direct message and we'll get those merch kits to you as well. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been a good one. I love just being able to talk about things that are having an impact. They're easy to use. They help. It just makes my job so much easier. So thank you for joining me, Arman, and sharing this amazing tool that you've created.
Thanks so much, Dan. I appreciate the time.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening or the rest of the day, wherever you are. Hello, I'm Dan Fitzpatrick, author of the bestseller The AI Classroom and a Forbes writer focused on how artificial intelligence is transforming education. Over the past few years, I've had the privilege of traveling the world, working with leading schools and districts, helping them to develop strategic approaches to AI integration that makes a real difference. I've developed strategies that work and learned from what doesn't, and witnessed where true transformation is possible. Today, I'm thrilled to introduce you to my latest book, Infinite Education, the 4-step strategy for change in an age of artificial intelligence. Releasing on January the 6th, 2025, this book isn't just a guide, it's an inside look at the strategies driving successful change in schools worldwide, making it a must-read for any educational leader or educator looking to secure their leadership in the future. In Infinite Education, I lay out a 4-step framework to help educational leaders build a future-ready vision for education in an age of AI. The first part of the book delves into the why we must evolve beyond our industrial age educational models to meet the demands of today's students and tomorrow's workforce. The second part reveals the how, providing practical steps to create a cohesive strategy that aligns your team, anticipates disruption, and drives lasting impact. What sets this book apart is that every strategy is grounded in real-world applications. This framework has already empowered schools and organizations to make meaningful, sustainable change in their approach to AI in education and their outlook on preparing students for the world. If you're an educator, administrator, or innovator, Infinite Education offers concrete steps to begin your journey in rethinking your practices and crafting a dynamic environment where both teachers and students can thrive. If you'd like to learn more or explore how these strategies could benefit your school or organization, please get in touch. And if you're interested in joining the waitlist for the book, head over to infiniteeducation.ai to secure your spot. Once again, Infinite Education, the 4-step strategy for change in an age of artificial intelligence, will be available on January 6th, 2025. Let's take this journey together and shape the future of education.